Hello everyone and welcome to the latest episode of This Week on History here on the Four Lads Network. And once again this week, as I will be every week from now on, I'm joined by Stephen Miller from the Rangers Archives. Stephen, how are you, mate?
I'm fine. David, yourself?
Oh, raring to go.
Good. Always exciting when you get to the start of the season, isn't it?
It is, isn't it? I'd just like to quickly mention some of the great feedback we've had for the Stephen's first appearance on the show last week. Much appreciated. And as I think I've mentioned already, we're going to be moving to Tuesday nights as of next week. So this will be the last Thursday episode. European football is going to take centre stage on Thursday night, so we need to move to accommodate the Rangers. But before then, we've got this programme to do, and this runs from July the 30th to August the 3rd. Hopefully I got it right this week. And it's only a 5-day show because we're moving to Tuesdays next week. This is only going to cover us till next Tuesday. So you all ready to go, Stephen?
All ready. Just no hard questions, please.
So we're not going to go too far back on our first day in history for July the 30th. We're going to go back to 2006. And I'm saying it's not too far back, then I've realised it's 20 years ago. July the 30th, 2006. Rangers play their first competitive match under new manager Paul Le Guen on the opening league day at Fir Park. The match ends Motherwell 1, Rangers 2. Before I talk about the game itself or Paul Le Guen and like that, what memories do you have of the summer when Paul Le Guen arrived, Stephen?
Yeah, well, I remember it was a summer that we were all pretty excited about something totally different. Yeah. I mean, this was a man that won the league title 3 times in a row with Lyon. He'd played with PSG, and he'd ran across the Sahara. So we're thinking we're getting a superstar. So obviously it maybe didn't quite turn out the way we would all hope, but the feeling in summer, from what I remember, was it was a really exciting time.
Oh yeah, I remember that. I've never been one to go to every pre-season friendly. I kind of dip in and out depending on what the opposition was usually. But I went to one that summer they played Middlesbrough. And I remember leaving Ibrox. We only won 1-0, but I thought we played really well. And I must admit, I was really looking forward to the season under Le Guen. I thought I had great hopes. What do you think? Do you think he underestimated Scottish football? Do you think he was just the wrong man at the wrong time?
Yeah, well, I definitely underestimated Scottish football. I think that was proved with the results, and his reactions to the results was quite damning in my opinion. But obviously you didn't know that at the time. In the summer, as you say, we played well against Middlesbrough. Buffel scored the goal. Looked as though we were going to have a decent start to the season as well. So they obviously had taken them to South Africa in the summer. I believe a team in them watched the World Cup final in Dave King's house and things like that. So they were he had them far travelled beforehand. Obviously they'd a couple of issues with like Sir Ricks and etc. He obviously had to put his foot down there. So, but again, it didn't have us in the best way. But the season before, remember, had been so poor. Under Alex McLeish, we were third. I think we finished third in the league from memory, behind Hearts. And so
it's familiar, isn't
it? Yeah, and we were obviously Alex McLeish had done a great job for most of the seasons he was there. Just the last season, we even though we got to the last 16 in the Champions League, it was just the home domestic form was so poor that I think it was it 10 games in a row without a victory.
Yeah.
So it was excitement. We knew that we were getting somebody who had a great pedigree, and we had a good nucleus of players. Like Purcell, Ferguson, and
what I'll do is I'll just read out the team for that day to give folk an idea what kind of team Paul Le Guen set out in his first game. So Lionel Letizia was in goal, the French goalkeeper that he signed, which maybe we'll talk about in a minute. Alan Hutton, Julian Rodriguez and Carol Svensson were the 2 centre-backs. Stevie Smith at left-back. Brahim Hamdani and Jeremy Clement in the middle of midfield. Oh, don't know what that is. It's a squeaky Libor Sionko, Thomas Buffel, Charlie Adam was the three behind, Dado Purcell up front. There's a lot of good players in there.
A lot of good players, yeah, but there's also some that maybe we could have question marks over. So, Carol's fencing just wasn't suited to a game. But again, we didn't know that then.
Yeah, know that. And I think it's probably fair to say that Rangers played quite well that day.
But if you read the match reports and that from the game, they were waxing lyrical over the football that Rangers played. We could have scored about 6 or 7 goals in the first half. Buffel missed 3 1-on-1s with the goalkeeper. He missed another couple of good chances. We hit the bar. We could have been and scored 1 goal, even though it was a lucky goal from Sionko, but we should have been out of sight. It should have been 6 or 7-0 at half time. And then the usual Rangers, we lose a goal early in the second half, and half time rates kind of start again. But we played really well for most of the game.
Those were at that time. I went to the majority of away games if I could get. I couldn't get a ticket that day. I couldn't get one. I ended up, and I didn't have Setanta Sports in my house, so I ended up having to listen to it on the radio.
Right,
which was unusual. I didn't listen to the radio very often, and we sounded brilliant.
Well,
I couldn't see it, but we sounded as if we were making chances every 5 minutes. But as you say, only one up, and it was Phil O'Donnell that scored from Motherwell. I'm sure it was Phil O'Donnell.
He did a rebound after DC saved his first shot. So back to 1 each, and then courtesy of the Rangers archives, I'm going to show the winning goal from that day. So we have this little video here.
And Dado Purcell has met that emphatically, and he restores Rangers' lead in Paul Le Guin's first SPL.
So after all that good football, corner kick, big man at the front post.
It never fails, does it?
Unfortunately, I don't think Le Guin actually utilised tactics like that too often. In fact, the opposition utilised tactics against Paul Le Guin like that far more often than he did.
Yeah, exactly, and then more often than not, they were successful.
So we won the game 2-1. Big Purcell got in the winner, but I remember going to Ibrox the following week against Dundee United. We conceded 2 absolutely terrible goals that day. We drew 2 each, and that was the first time I remember the grumblings running about me saying, these defenders can't defend. I remember people talking, Svensson, he was about the only centre-half I've ever seen that get smaller when he jumped for a ball instead of taller. He was terrible. And I don't know, we got knocked out the cup at home with St Johnstone. We were dropping points right, left and centre. His leaving was a bit inevitable, really, wasn't it? Even before he fell out with Barry Ferguson.
Oh, way before that. The St Johnstone game you mentioned there was the one that when I thought this isn't going to work. I think that was the first time we'd lost at home or been knocked out of a cup by a lower league side. St Johnstone. Well, St Johnstone were in the first division at the time, and they beat us 2-0. And he didn't seem that bothered in the post-match press conference and talking to the press as if, oh well, we played quite well, we move on. You know, it was just an acceptance that isn't acceptable. So and that happened quite a few games. We drew 1 each with St Mirren when they scored in the last minute. We get beat between Christmas and New Year for Inverness again with a last minute goal. Matches that we should never have lost, and it was just we were just hopeless, really. They were just the players didn't know what they were doing. They were obviously not happy with the manager. I think that's fairly easy to tell. And obviously it came ahead after that Inverness game with Barry Ferguson and the manager. Yeah,
I mean there were some people at the time who sort of pointed the finger more towards players who wouldn't adapt, players who wouldn't adapt to some more European style of training and lifestyle and all that sort of good stuff. Maybe it was all the Monster Munch jokes and stuff. But I think I went to that game at Fir Park at New Year. I did get a ticket for that one. The one Boyd scored on the goal for the penalty and he put the 6 fingers up. And see, the minute he done that, we all knew that Le Guin was gone. Yeah. There was no way he was coming back for it. You could see what side of the divide the dressing room was falling down on.
Yes, definitely. And it was only a couple of days later that they announced that he'd gone by mutual consent, which was a nice way of saying he'd been sacked.
Well, I don't know. I remember at the time he didn't take a payoff or something, so which gave him a bit of credit in the bank, didn't it? But I suppose the long and the short of it was him leaving allowed Walter to come back. So
there was obviously a silver lining to it, but we went through 6 months of pain of just the players not. He just didn't understand, like a midweek game at St Mirren or midweek game. It's maybe a bit like Danny Roll or whatever. Just didn't quite grasp that you've got to fight for the first 50 or 60 minutes before you can then play your football.
Yeah, I thought it was very telling. Just about the first thing Walter did was he brought in two experienced centre halves, didn't he?
big centre halves that could jump and could compete. The only thing we played well in Europe.
We did.
We know it was our first ever victory in Italy against Livorno.
Yeah,
we beat Amica Ronchi 5-0 in Poland. So we did not too bad in Europe, and we were still in Europe when Walter came back. So
we were silver lining, as you say, but it's one of the things. Our first Catholic manager at the time. I remember there was the only people that never talked about it were Rangers fans.
Yeah,
everybody else we didn't care.
No, didn't know that.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
Exactly. So the Paul Le Guen experiment started on this day in July the 30th, 2006. Fair to say it was an experiment that didn't work, and probably also fair to say that we finished it early enough that we could rescue a bit of Rangers by the time the season was over. Because the second half of that season, when he was gone, you could see we were laying the foundations for what was to come after.
Yeah, very much so. Very much. It's funny. Like I was talking to my son about doing this the podcast now, and we're going to talk about that game, and he was going, what has Le Guen done since he left Rangers?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I really don't care. I goes, but it's not just about Le Guen. It's like when MD moves on from Rangers, thanks for your time, but I really don't care anymore. No. Unless they're a blue nose and a Rangers man. But most of the ones that come and go and flit in and out, I really don't care where they go or what they do.
And that's absolutely fair by me. So that was July the 30th. Let's call it the bright introduction that Paul Le Guen gave to Scottish football, but it was downhill after that. So we're going to go to the last day of July the 31st. We always do an old one, don't you? So we're going to do the old one early on this time. July the 31st, 1926. And it's actually, it's not a birthday anymore. It's a death.
The opposite,
yeah. John McPherson, also known as Kitey, John Kitey McPherson, dies at the age of 58. So John McPherson is not a name that the vast majority of folk watching this podcast, listening to this podcast, will know anything about because it's so long ago. I'm going to quickly bring up a picture first, if I can find it, because I've got all these different clips and things. So there we go. So I've actually used this picture in a pod previously, and it's the first Rangers team that won the Scottish Cup. So it's just for those that are watching just now. The names are at the bottom anyway. If you go to the right-hand side of the picture, John Barker's sitting with his arms folded. There's a guy to the left of him, sort of in between four other people, sort of sandwiched in between them all. That's John McPherson with the moustache there. And before I give away some stats and stuff about John McPherson, I'll let Stephen come on and tell you what's your
memories of him.
I'm going to say memories, but you don't remember him.
I never seen him play. Well, obviously he played and scored in our first ever league game in the Scottish League when we beat Hearts 5-2.
Yep.
And he also scored in 2 Scottish Cup finals for us, 1894 and 97. And the first one, as you said there, first time Rangers won the Scottish Cup by beating Celtic 3-1, and he was one of the scorers.
Yeah.
He also played for Rangers for 12 years, I believe. Yep. And between 1909 and his death, he was also a director of the club, and he's obviously in the Hall of Fame. So if he was the director from 1909 to 28, he was one of the people responsible for bringing Bill Struth to the team.
Yeah. So if I go back to, obviously, I done a book years ago, and John McPherson was one of the chapters in it. John McPherson was probably one of the first superstar players Rangers bought. Because before he even came to Rangers, when he played for Kilmarnock and he played a spell at Everton, he played at Kelly, he was already a Scotland international. He was already regarded as the best inside forward in Scotland. So Rangers buying him, or signing him, should I say, because it was amateur, then you didn't buy players back in 1890. Signing a Scotland international was quite unusual. Usually they came through the ranks at Rangers and became Scottish international. And the Hirscherman from Kilmarnock, that's why he played for Kilmarnock first. He was possibly the most versatile player I've ever read about in terms of the number of different positions he could play.
Right.
But he was mainly a forward, mainly an inside forward. And as you say, he signed just before league football started, 1890.
Yep.
As you said, he scored in the first league game. There's a number of firsts associated with John McPherson. So, first league game, he scored in it. The following week, he scored the first ever Rangers League hat-trick against Cambuslang. As you say, he scored in the first Scottish Cup win. He also scored in the first win over Celtic, the Glasgow Cup final, which was also a first Glasgow Cup win. He then captained Rangers the first time they won 3 trophies in the one season, in the 3 Cup team in 1897. He was a regular in the first and only Scottish team to not drop a point through a whole season.
Yep.
In 1899, 18 games played, 18 wins. And he was the first Rangers player to score 100 competitive goals for the club.
Right.
So he's got all these firsts.
All these great records, yeah. He was also the first player to score in a hat-trick in the Scottish League. That hat-trick against Cambuslang was the first in league football.
Because it was only the second weekend. So, yeah.
He scored 5 goals in a couple of games as well during his Rangers spell.
So I've got his overall stats here. So, and these old ones, there's all different numbers you can see. It depends what competitions you want to count. So,
yep.
I'm including things like the Glasgow League and the Intercity League and all that kind of stuff because they were competitive at the time. And if I count all that, 322 games, 173 goals, which is pretty good.
Yeah, very good.
4 league titles, 3 Scottish Cups, 7 Glasgow Cups, 2 Charity Cups, 9 Scotland Cups, and 17 goals against Celtic, which makes him a bit of a hero straight away as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely, yeah. And he was obviously a well-known international. I think he scored twice against England as well.
Yeah, he captained Scotland once as well. He was a real star of that era of Scottish football. But I just wanted to talk about I don't know if it was his last ever league appearance. I think it was actually. I think his last ever league appearance in 1902. When he was a veteran by this time, he wasn't a regular in the team anymore. Rangers had won the league 3 years in a row before it. At the start of 1902, Rangers went to Parkhead, and if Celtic won, they won the league. But we beat them. And we still had a couple of games to go. And if we won the games that were left, we would overtake them and win the league. And the second last game of the season was against St Mirren at Ibrox. And John McPherson wasn't meant to be playing. And the goalkeeper, Matt Dickey, pulled out at the last minute to get in. He was ill. He was unwell. And so John McPherson went in goals. It's hard to even get your head around something like this these days, because obviously we think we've got squads and five goalkeepers to pick from and stuff like that. If you weren't playing, usually you didn't go. You just weren't there. There was no substitutes in anything. So, and the team was usually announced in advance. So, if you weren't playing, you didn't need to go until you turn up. But anyway, John McPherson obviously did turn up. Matt Dickey pulled out with illness and they put him in goal. And that completed the set. It meant he played in every single position for Rangers. He had played all 10 outfield positions competitively. His last ever game was in goal in this St Mirren game. And it wasn't any old game. Rangers had to win it to keep the league challenge going. And apparently he played really well. He conceded 2 goals. We won 3-2. But the match report's on your Rangers website. Talk about a couple of saves that he makes in it. So he obviously played quite well. So what a way to end. He ends as a goalkeeper in a game that almost clinches the title.
Fantastic. Just a bit of trivia that you would never think of. But obviously, I've been working in the last couple of years on a spreadsheet marking every game that Rangers have ever played, and the amount of outfield players that have played in goal for Rangers as a starting position is I couldn't believe it when I was doing some of them. You know, like I'm going, this guy's, I've got him down as a goalkeeper here, and he's right back next week and centre half the next week. You know, so it was just whatever it was. You know, it's like playing down the park with you go in goal and and they could swap positions in the, not obviously in the league games and the competitive games, but in like just the friendlies. You know, like there's games where they've played in goal in the first half, and then they swap with somebody for the second half and all that.
These were the days, I'm just trying to get my head around Peter McCloy going up front and
you're
in goal. Anyway, and as you said, after he stopped playing, he retired. He was out of the game for a while. Then he came back as a director of the club. In 1923, there was a Golden Jubilee dinner at Ibrox. This whole thing about 1872 versus 1873, but it was held in 1923 because at the time, 1873 was regarded as the foundation date.
Yeah.
And they had I don't know if they had a vote or a debate or a discussion at it, but there was something about who was the best player in the first 50 years of Rangers at this dinner.
Yeah.
I don't think there was a trophy given out. I don't think there was a discussion on it, and basically the majority agreed that John McPherson was probably the best player of the Rangers' first 50 years.
That must say something, eh?
Exactly. Yeah, it shows you how highly he was regarded. Maybe the fact he was a director sitting at the table at the time.
Well, yeah, maybe he'd the casting vote.
So, when he passed away on July the 31st, 1926, at the age of 58, he was still a director. He was director at that point when he passed away. He had a heart attack at Shawfield. He was at the Clyde Sports at Shawfield. Remember a lot of football teams used to have sports events at that.
Sports teams, yeah.
Well, it was at the Clyde Sports, and he had a heart attack and sadly died in 1926. And they had this big funeral for him, and there was all the directors and all the players and all walking behind the coffin with the horses, and it was.
Yeah.
He was obviously highly regarded as a player, as a director, and as a Rangers man.
Yes, and he's in the Hall of Fame. So
absolutely, he certainly is. And I'm not sure how many folk have heard of him, but he's a name I think that should be better than it probably is. But it's a time thing, isn't it? It is.
There's, you know, if it's more than 30 years ago, it's hard for some of the youngsters to go back and. I mean, all the information's there. If you've got an interest in it, then it's easy enough to find. But I think it's stories like that it's what makes our club.
And I'll just finish by saying that the latest picture I could ever find of John McPherson is this one here. There he's standing in the back row. He's the first man in the back row. I think that picture was taken in 1925. And so obviously he died the following year. So, but in effect, that you can see. Proudly standing beside Mr. Struth there, who's in the back row.
Yep.
So, John McPherson, who died on July the 31st, 1926. We're going to go a wee bit more up to date. Everybody watching will be delighted to hear. Although it's still quite scary how long ago this is for me, because I think somebody my age thinks that this is really recent. It's seared into my memory the day it happened. But it's actually 40 years ago.
Yeah.
So
that's crazy.
August the 1st, 1986. Rangers break the Scottish transfer record by signing Ipswich central defender and England international Terry Butcher for £725,000, which was a humongous amount of money for Rangers to spend in 1986. Absolutely mind-blowing. What do you remember of that day, Stephen?
Well, obviously it'd been rumoured for a couple of weeks that they were obviously looking to get him. Obviously the World Cup in '86 had finished, and obviously they get a break after it, so maybe that's what had held it back. But it was in the papers for a couple of weeks that we were looking to sign him. Obviously we'd signed Chris Woods and Colin West, and this was just such a huge statement.
Absolutely.
That Souness was going, right, we're serious here. and obviously Man United were very keen on trying to buy him. Ron Atkinson had just sold Mark Hughes to Barcelona, I believe, for about 2.5 million. And so obviously they had the money, but they couldn't compete with what we offered, which it was just made us. Obviously, we could offer, European football, which obviously the English clubs couldn't. So, but it was just phenomenal. It was just phenomenal. He was just a colossus.
That's actually the word I wrote down when I speak about Terry Butcher. That's usually the word that I use. The summer after he had unsuccessfully chased Maradona,
Yes.
He came to Rangers. As you say, Ipswich had been relegated, hadn't they? So I think
he knew they were going to sell him. Yeah,
I think he'd have stayed at Ipswich if they hadn't been relegated, because that was his team. But what a statement that was! Things got really real.
Yeah, and
that was front page news. Suddenly, Rangers weren't just making back page headlines with signings. It was the headline in the news that night.
Yeah,
it was. I'll just quickly give his stats. Obviously, I think I'm right in saying when I say he played 176 games for Rangers, all 176 of them would have been his captain, because I can't think of any game that he wasn't the Rangers captain, because he captained them right at the start. 176 games. 11 goals, 3 league titles, 2 league cups. No Scottish cups, which was another tale to maybe someday. But for me, I'll put cards on the table and I'll say I think he was the best centre half I've ever seen playing for Rangers.
Quality wise, I think he's right up there. Definitely, he was the first season. It was just absolutely tremendous. It was so different from what we'd been used to for maybe the previous 8 or 9 years where we had struggled. But it was just so commanding. He's the force of his tackles, the power he had in the air. It was just, I think the opposition showed him a lot of respect because he'd earned it. And I think he did never say die attitude as well. Just what we want to see in a player. And he would just, and he was a left-sided defender who had a left foot. The Winchester, as Ali McCoy used to call it. So, it was just phenomenal that first season. Obviously, the second season where he broke his leg, and he didn't come back that season. He was supposed to come back before the end of the season, but he broke down again. Yeah. But again, the next couple of seasons, he was back to top form.
Yeah, that first season you're talking about, I don't know if there's any other Rangers centre back captain who could have marshalled that team to the league that season.
Yeah, and always people forget, like they all say Souness came in and he bought his way to the title and that. But we bought Chris Woods and we bought Terry Butcher. Colin West, we paid 185,000, but he was injured after about years and didn't play again to March. And we were on Jimmy Nicholl on a swap deal for Bobby Williamson for West Brom. But apart from that, it was just the exact same players who had been playing for the previous 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, we beat Celtic in the League Cup final when it was Ali Dawson that was the centre back beside him. I just felt as if he marshalled that team better than anyone else could have done, I think. We're going to talk about another great Rangers centre half towards the end of this, and I'm not going to say one's better than the other particularly, but I do think, as far as not just a footballing centre half, somebody that could do absolutely everything, really comfortable with the ball at his feet, a good passer of the ball, somebody who's a footballer as well as a really good defender, a bad loser, a leader, an inspiration. I think he was just all of those things. And you touched on the second season. I think, and a lot of people say we didn't win the league because he broke his leg, but actually we were a wee bit far behind already by the time he broke his leg. But I do think that for all that, Graham Roberts was a tremendous signing for Rangers, and he made a big difference in that first season when he came in. And for all that, Richard Gough was an absolute giant for Rangers. The two of them didn't gel together. They just didn't gel as a partnership.
Not as a partnership, no.
Whereas Butcher could play with either the two of them.
Yes. Yep.
When Butcher wasn't there, they two, I thought, were a pretty weak central defensive partner.
We struggled. We did struggle.
And the minute he came back, the defence just improved instantly.
Yeah.
He was a giant for me. And what about favourite Terry Butcher memories then?
Obviously, his title-winning goal at Pittodrie would be the thing that's up there. A fantastic header from.
Then just hold that thought. We'll just show everybody that. So, hadn't won the league for 9 years. Second last weekend of the season, we go to Pittodrie, where we haven't won for a long time. If we lose there, the heat's definitely still on. Graham Souness gets sent off at nothing each in the first half. A few minutes before half time.
There's Cooper. There's Butcher. He scored. Butcher has scored for Rangers. The Rangers captain thunders in the first goal.
I'm in there somewhere.
Yeah, magic. Yeah, that's obviously one of the favourite memories, like for him to cap his first season by scoring the goal that actually clinched us the title. Celtic had to lose that day to Falkirk at Parkhead, which they conveniently did for us. So that was a wonderful memory. I think it was 9 years of hurt, and that all came out in that afternoon. It was, and I think he really got, him and Roberts obviously got what it meant to the support.
I think so, and that was what Easter Road 1975, Pittodrie 1987. I still can't decide in my head which one I like the most. I change depending who I'm talking to a lot of the time. But what a day that was! What a day! I absolutely loved that day. I'm so glad I managed to somehow get a couple of tickets for it in the Aberdeen end, but it wasn't really the Aberdeen end because it was
no Aberdeen end that day.
No Aberdeen end that day. So that was that first season. You touched on later on. After that, second season wasn't so good. Broke his leg, etc. But the next couple of years, he was. You could probably argue he was at the peak of his career. Then he became the England captain, for example. He captained them in the World Cup. Got to the semi-final of the World Cup with them. A partnership with Richard Gough at the back. There was one season where he only conceded about 19 goals or something with the two of them at the back. They were outstanding. But for all that team had all these great players in it, and we ended up with Gough beside him, Gary Stevens coming in, Trevor Stephen coming in, Mo Johnson coming in, Ray Wilkins, all these different players. There was absolutely no doubt who the leader of that team was.
Team was, yeah. It's not like we have at the moment where we've got 5 different captains. We don't know who to go with. He was just a natural captain. He was always going to be the captain, no matter who else was there. And I think every one of the players looked up to him. Yeah,
and it was a bit sad the way it ended, though, wasn't it?
Very sad that day. We couldn't. I mean, obviously, we all went to the game that night expecting him to be playing. He obviously scored the own goal with the looping header at Tannadice, but which it was an error, but it's not something you think is going to cost you your place in the team and your career at the club. So obviously, Souness believed that he had an injury and he wasn't playing as well as he should have. But it just seemed a very bitter end to his Rangers career.
Yeah, he did score a few own goals, to be fair.
Yeah.
Quiz question about the top scorer against Rangers under Graham Souness, and it was Terry Butcher that was the answer.
Well, I don't think Terry Butcher is the answer, but we'll...
Well, I don't know. That was the one I get told.
I think John Robertson Hearts is the answer.
Oh, could be.
I might be wrong, but I haven't looked at it for a long time. But I thought it was John Robertson Hearts. So with 6 and Butcher had 5 own goals. But anyway, we'll see.
I don't know. I'll look it up.
I'm sure that there'll be a few people.
I mean, for example, he scored that famous 2-each draw when we were down to 9 men. He gets sent off. He scored an own goal that day, then gets sent off, and then get found guilty in court for a breach of the peace.
I think he only scored the own goal to stop Peter Grant scoring. He
scored an own goal at Parkhead as well. Probably the one that I remember most was a wee cup midweek game against Wraith Rovers. He scored an own goal 1 minute, and then he scored a 35-yard screamer at the other end 2 minutes later.
That's it. Yep, and the other one he scored was at Tynecastle. We won 2-1, but he scored an own goal. But the game wasn't televised. Maybe that's why people don't kind of remember that one. But apart from that, you've mentioned all his other own goals.
Right, okay. So as you say, he get dropped. There was a bit of there's stories that he got asked to play in the final, but I don't know whether they're true or not. I don't.
That was the rumour on the day. Standing the Rangers end, they were saying that he'd refused to play in the final.
But whether that's true or whether it's not true, certainly Souness was in a hurry to get him out of the club.
Yeah.
At that time, and he left shortly afterwards. Which, after 176 games as captain and all these trophies, was, and not just the fact that there was success and trophies and stuff, he was the figurehead of the whole lot of it.
Yeah.
it just felt so sad the way it ended. But he is in the Club Hall of Fame. I do think that the relationship between the fans and him is better now. They've been through a little bad patch. I think he done a couple of daft interviews when he was managers at other clubs, which I think didn't help. But
he's done us a couple of turns in the managerial
Helicopter Sunday,
Helicopter Sunday in 2005, and then we Inverness Cali beating Celtic 3-2 in 2010 or something like that, around about then.
2011, the run in Walters last season. The night Neil Lennon was kicking water bottles about.
Exactly. What a shame. But, and again, he's in the greatest ever Rangers team.
Of course he is. Of course, I should have mentioned that. Yeah, which again is it's all because of when it was voted for. Of course.
Exactly.
I mean, I dread to think if there was another one of those votes now.
Who would be in now? Yeah.
Be quite scary, actually. So anyway, Terry Butcher was signed on August the 1st, 1986. And I think it's one of those days that any Rangers fan old enough to remember it could tell you exactly where they were when they found out, kind of thing. Because it was just one of those historic moments, wasn't it?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to move on to August the 2nd. And unless you're a similar age to me and Stephen, this might be one that you don't know much about as well. So August the 2nd, 1976, Rangers introduced their new pre-season tournament called the Tennant Caledonian Cup. It would be a 2-day competition involving 2 English teams, 2 Scottish teams, played over 2 semi-finals and then a final and a third place game the second day. I'll bring up, I think I've got a picture somewhere of, thanks to the archive site yet again. Then it's there. It ran for 4 seasons. So pre-season in 1976, 77, 78, 79. And that first one, the one we're going to talk about, featured Rangers and Partick Thistle from Scotland. And in England, there was the 2 cup winners, Southampton, who were the FA Cup holders, and Manchester City, who were the League Cup holders.
That's right.
Were you any of the games?
I was at every single Tennant Caledonian Cup game. Yeah. Yes, it was indeed.
You beat me. I can't boast that one.
Four different winners of a trophy as well. So I was at every single one. It was good fun. You know, they were. I mean, for what I remember, the second season. I know we're going to talk about the first one, but the second season was Cooper's first game at Ibrox for Rangers.
That's right. And Bobby Russell, but obviously Cooper, both of them scored brilliant goals that day. I remember it because it was about 30 degrees. I was listening
and my dad got sunstroke, had to go down to the first aid but underneath the stand. So, but I get back out in time to see Cooper's goal. So, but I went to them all. I enjoyed them all, and you know, it was great. Good atmosphere, you know, without the tension and all this kind of thing. It was good. But I do remember is the very first game was Southampton Man City, and it was the first time I'd ever seen a penalty shootout.
Right.
Obviously, there had been penalty shootouts before. We'd lost and won in Lisbon, and then we lost the Dryborough Cup in '75. But this was the first one I'd seen at Ibrox, and I don't know if you know what happened, but it finished 11 each.
Nobody missed.
Nobody missed. And I think because Rangers game was due to start, they get fed up, so they said, "We'll just have a toss of the coin," and that's how Southampton get through to the final.
Yeah, I think I think the first one was in midweek rather than weekends. So the first one was
it was a night game. Night games, yeah.
So the first game kicked off at 7 o'clock. So that Manchester City game and Southampton kicked off at 7 o'clock.
Well,
and Rangers were meant to come on about, I don't know, quarter to 9 or something, because back then there wasn't all this injury time and half time was only 10 minutes. So Rangers, I think, were due about quarter to 9. The penalties were still going. It was 9 o'clock. And the report I've read of it, and if you were there, you'd be able to tell me if it's true or not. It said that Wally Waddle marched onto the park and demanded that they stop and all toss the coin.
I can't remember that. I just remember the fans were whistling because we were bored after when they got to be each other was like, oh, for goodness sake, this could go on forever.
Yeah, well, apparently the two managers done the toss of the coin and Laurie McMenemy of Southampton won it. But I was looking at some of the names of the players in the two teams though, and I suppose it's an age thing as well. But then I remember you used to watch Sports Scene on a Saturday night, and it would show the game, so won the match of the day game, the English game as well. And you saw English football. Guys like Roy Donachie, Asa Hartford, Joe Royal, Brian Kidd, Mick Shannon, Jim McCallagh, Peter Osgood. You think that? Terrific
players. Southampton had a really good side at that time. Really good players. Osgood was a phenomenal centre forward. I always thought he was kind of Mark Heatley 20 years earlier. He was big, strong, could shoot with both feet, run, just he did everything. He was just a bit injury prone, and he liked the lifestyle a bit much of London.
So did you say Southampton got through in the toss of a coin? Rangers played Partick. You one of the few that stayed to the end, because going with the newspaper reports, it didn't finish near 11 o'clock.
Yeah, no. I never used to leave games early. I was always there at the end. Yeah, Alan Hansen played for Partick Thistle that night, I believe. So I think 2-0 with big DJ scoring both goals. I remember second goal was a good goal. First one was just a flick in from a corner, but the second goal was a good move. And I finished with a shot, I think. Alan Ruff was the goalie.
Wow. So the format was, as we've said, the two semi-finals on day one, and then in day two, there'll be a third and fourth place game, which luckily Rangers never had to play in.
No.
It'd have been interesting actually if that had ever happened, whether the crowd would have stayed for the final or not. But luckily we always won our semi-final in all 4 years, so we didn't need to find that out. So Man City hammered Thistle in the third and fourth place game, and then Rangers played Southampton in the final. And Rangers were the treble winners from the season before, best team in the country. They didn't quite play the treble winning cup team, but it was the vast majority of them. Both nights. But Southampton won 2-1. Now I wasn't at the first night. I only went to the second night of this one, so I was at that game. And the thing I remember in it, and it's all I remember about it, to be honest with you, is that the crowd gave Mick Shannon absolute dog's abuse for the minute he came out the tunnel.
The whole game. He scored after 5 minutes or something like that.
I remember him off injured, but
he got injured. He clattered into McCloy when he scored, and he hobbled about for that, but didn't stop the abuse. And so that was the case, If a player was a danger, you just give him abuse and hope he doesn't like it.
But he was also the England first choice up front at the time, and Scotland and England home internationals hadn't been that long before it, and I think he'd been mouthing off a bit about Scotland in the press before it.
Tom Forsyth put him right in the game.
Forsyth tackled him. Yeah. So he was a bit of a public enemy number one in Scotland, never mind at Ibrox.
Very much.
And back then, Rangers fans tended to all follow Scotland.
Was Alan Ball playing for Southampton at the time?
I don't remember him playing in that game.
I don't remember him. Because I remember he played later on. I remember he played with Arsenal in the centenary game. Didn't get booed because he had white boots and because he had a squeaky voice. But I've just got some memory that he played later on with Southampton. Maybe it was the following season or
maybe in the following year. I don't think it was that one. Anyway, it was 2-1. So Southampton won the first Tennant Caledonian Cup.
Do you remember Parlane's goal? An absolute screamer and over his left foot over his right shoulder.
Hit off the bar, didn't it?
Hit off the bar. Southampton said it didn't cross the line, but it was that good a shot you had to give it a go, you know.
I remember it clattered the bar, went down and came back out.
Yeah.
So I'll just very quick, because we don't need to talk about all the technical, but the following year we beat Southampton. Did you say the David Cooper first game? He scored a free kick. But then we lost the final again, this time to West Brom. And Laurie Cunningham.
What a player. What a player he was.
What a footballer he was.
Again, he got dog's abuse as well, the 2 nights there. But what a player he was. God, he was the fastest thing I'd ever seen at that time.
Oh, he was brilliant.
Yeah.
I went to both the games that time. That was a Saturday, Sunday though, so it was easier for me to go to both. He was terrible. Willie Johnson played for
Willie Johnson, captained Wesley, or collected the trophy for them.
Yeah. The following season would have been John Gregg's first games as manager at Ibrox when we finally won it. And we beat Southampton. Southampton were in the first 3 of them, so they were back yet again when they got to the final. And I remember Bobby Russell scored a brilliant goal in the final.
Left footer into the roof of the net. Yeah, he was. Russell was famous for the type of goals. Again, just about it wasn't televised, but Rangers played well that day against Southampton.
And then the last ever in 1979, they made it a Friday Sunday instead of doing Saturday Sunday because we had the Dryborough Cup final in between. So Rangers played West Ham on the Friday night. They played Celtic at Hampden on the Saturday. Then they played Kilmarnock in the final.
Imagine nowadays if there were players that were to asked to play 3 days in a row in fairly competitive matches. And the thing is, he didn't swap the team about very much.
No,
over the 3 games. Just go on with it, play it, and I'm sure it was a Friday night as well. And Saturday afternoon, and then the Sunday afternoon, and then obviously Sunday afternoon against Kilmarnock, we're coasting at 2-0 with about a minute to go, and Kilmarnock scored 2 goals. And then beat us in penalties.
Yeah, I wasn't there on the Friday night. I was there on the Sunday.
We beat them West Ham 3-2 on the Friday night, and I think Gordon Smith scored a couple in that. Sealed his transfer to Brighton. Alan Mullery was in the crowd.
They were the other team, weren't they? They were the other team that were there that year.
Yep. So he took a shine to Gordon Smith that night, and that's what led to his transfer later on.
Right. So the Tennant Caledonian Cup, I presume, because Kilmarnock won the last one, must be sitting in Rugby Park somewhere.
I would imagine. So. I think it's probably the only bit that's in Kilmarnock so far.
Because as you say, they came back for 2-0 down. It wasn't a minute or 2 to go, I think, when a lot of folks started leaving. And then they won in penalties. Another penalty shootout. And they won. So the Tennant Caledonian Cup, we've just went through a couple of meaningless pre-season games as we do most seasons. Back in the late 70s, Rangers introduced a little trophy into to try and make it a bit more competitive. And I think, to be fair, the games were relatively competitive. Yeah,
they were competitive. Yeah, absolutely. You wanted to win. There was good crowds. So, but I never actually found out. But I often wonder if, like Sir John Gilligan, who was CEO of Tennants, and obviously the later Rangers chairman and one of the 3 Bears, had anything to do with the kind of sponsorship or setting up of the tournament. But maybe it was because I'm sure he would have been at Tennants then.
Yeah, very, very possible. So the Tennant Caledonian Cup we done for August the 2nd, because it started in August the 2nd, 1976. Finally, because we're only doing 5 tonight, because we're going to move to Tuesdays after this. So the last one we're going to do tonight, August the 3rd, we're going to go back to 1996. When I think about it, I've done 96, 86 and 76 in this show. Now, 1996, August the 3rd, Rangers beat Arsenal 3-0 in a testimonial match for club captain Richard Gough. I'm not particularly want to talk about the testimonial game in itself. I'll probably talk more about the player, but I'll very quickly just mention the testimonial. You were there? Were you at that one?
Yes, I was. Yeah.
Brian Laudrup show. He was absolutely incredible.
Astonishingly good against the Arsenal team at that time. Was it George Graham? He was the manager at the time.
Bruce Weir was the manager.
Yeah, but he absolutely destroyed them. Yeah. And Albert's his first goal for Rangers.
So it was. So it was.
Even
Yeah,
Van Vossen dribbled round Tony Adams and chipped David Seaman from about 8 yards. So it was, something was definitely not in the air that day.
It was a friendly after all. Yeah, so big Goff's testimonial. I'll just quickly read out the team, then we'll move on to Goff. And so the team that day was Andy Gorham, Trevor Stephen, Joachim Bjorklund. That must have been his first games at Ibrox, I would have thought.
Yeah.
Goff, Petric, Alberts, you mentioned that was his. Derek McInnes, Stuart McCall, Ali McCoist, Gordon Jury, and Brian Loudrup. Gascoigne was injured, so he didn't play. Just come on with Durant, Miller, Shields, and Van Vossen.
Just one wee anecdote from later on that night. That night there was an incident that led to our current manager being the chauffeur for our previous manager for a year. But
a bit of drink driving.
I think that was after the Arsenal game.
Oh dear. No, we can't condone that.
No.
So Richard Goff, absolutely deserving of a testimonial. We talked about one legendary Rangers captain, but maybe a captain for a shorter period of time.
Yeah.
Earlier on with Terry Butcher. And obviously, when Terry Butcher did have his fallout with Graham Souness and did leave, the man who took over the armband, the man who took over the captaincy, was Richard Goff.
Yeah.
I'll just give you stats at the start, and then I'll ask you your recollections of Mr. Goff. So 428 games, 32 goals, 9 league titles, 3 Scottish Cups, 6 League Cups, plus 1 league title at Dundee United before he ever joined us. He sits right at the top table of Rangers legends, doesn't he?
Absolutely, yeah. No, without doubt. If we had a captain like him in the last few years, I think we'd have won more trophies.
Yeah. If I go back to just even when we signed him, Souness chased him at Dundee United. Jim McLean wouldn't sell him. He ended up having to go to Tottenham. Became Tottenham captain, captained him in an FA Cup final. But Souness eventually got his man, but he had to spend £1 million for the first time. Yeah. He was the first £1 million player in Scottish football.
Yeah, 1.2 million. The same day McAvenny signed for Celtic for 750,000. That was a kind of before he'd said it, but Rangers spending £10 at Celtic's £5.
Yeah, I think Celtic held the Scottish transfer record for about half an hour.
Yeah,
yeah. So he came in though. I remember going to his first game at Tannadice. We lost.
Yeah, we lost 1-0. Ian Ferguson scored.
Yeah. Yep. Then his second appearance for Rangers is the one I want to talk about because I was going to ask your favourite Richard Goff goal, but I'm going to give you my favourite Richard Goff goal because you know what it is because I asked you for the video for it. But only his second game for Rangers, his first game for Rangers at Ibrox was a game we actually mentioned earlier on. The game that Chris Woods got sent off along with McAvenny. Graham Roberts went in goal. We went 2-0 down by half time. Butcher gets sent off, down to 9 men with an outfield player in goal. McCoist pulls one back. It's getting to the last minute of the game. 2-1 down. And this happens.
Away from Rogan. The early ball inside. McCarthy did well with the header, but it's Durant again. The last chance perhaps for Rangers. The chance is on for Goff. Richard Goff makes it 2 apiece. And the final minute of the match. What incredible drama here at Ibrox.
Wow.
The loudest roar.
Yeah, it can't be far off it. It can't be. You can tell at the end of the microphone, almost can't pick it up. It's so loud. And I think you told me this last week. You were actually working around the corner from Ibrox that day. There was quite a number of fans actually left early that day.
Yeah. I worked for William Hill Bookmakers for all of my adult life actually, and I was managing the shop in Copeland Road that day, and heard the score was 2-0. Went out onto Copeland Road, just at the corner where the old Rangers shop used to be.
Yep.
And all you could see was streams of Rangers fans coming down the road, and obviously they come into the betting shop. But it was a bit disgruntled, to say the least. Then you hear the butcher's been sent off. Oh, it's even worse. But then McCoy's pulls one back, and then we could hear the roar from the stadium, and I ended up with the punters in the shop floor dancing on the tables just to celebrate, because it kept them happy as well. And obviously it was extremely happy for the result. But like if you say the boys now, you imagine celebrating a draw against Celtic, but that day was a bit different, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think 9 men with a centre-half in goal for, it must have been about 75 minutes or something. Doing what we're scoring goal that day. I think we're quite entitled to celebrate a last-minute equaliser, I think.
Absolutely.
So, but in effect, Goff's career from then on at Rangers that for me, that kind of epitomised it, even though it was right at the start. Just a man that never gave in, and a man that just got it, a man that played to the final whistle every game, no matter the opposition, no matter the situation.
Yep. And demanded the same of the rest of the team. He didn't just play for himself and hope the others would follow. He demanded it of everybody else, which and obviously drove the standards up, as the saying is nowadays.
Yes.
What I like about his stats, and Butcher, in fact, like between them, they played nearly 600 games for Rangers in an era where, you were getting 2 subs and squads, and never not a substitute appearance between them.
Oh,
every single game they played was a start.
Right, so, right. Yeah. Which shows you how invaluable, how irreplaceable a guy like Richard Goff was.
If they were
even when he was getting towards the twilight of his career, if you like, when he was getting into his mid-30s,
if he was fit, he started. Simple as that.
Yeah. You got a favourite Goff game or Goff memory? Or?
Well, I loved obviously it was only just after he became captain as well, was his extra time winner in the League Cup final against Celtic. I loved that goal. Was obviously in the Rangers end, and it was a fairly even game. I thought, like Celtic had went ahead early in the second half. Mark Walters equalised with a good shot, and then I think both teams had good chances to win it and probably should have scored. But then obviously Gary Stevens' long free kick, whether Hateley flicked it on or not, it might just have brushed his hair like that. That match in the World Cup when he got given his offside, and Goff round the back of Chris Morris and Packy Bonner standing heaven, just waving at the crowd or whatever he was doing. But Goff stuck it away and won as a League Cup. That was and obviously it was kind of a tough time with Butcher just having left, but that really allowed us to kick on that season, I believe. Mo Johnson was injured that day as well, didn't play.
I think that was the start as well for me of the partnership with John Brown. I know they played in the semi-final together, but the first trophy they won together, if you like, for me it was when that partnership kind of arrived. That was going to be our 2 centre backs, and him and Brown dovetailed brilliantly together. I thought.
Yep, absolutely. Again, a left-sided central defender with a left foot, and just both hard as nails, both never say die. What more do you want?
Yeah, but in effect, but any ball played long towards it. Goff was the one that went for it, and Brown was the man that covered behind him.
He was a front foot defender, Richard Goff. He wasn't one to wait and see if there was a flick on or anything like that. He was, as soon as the ball came into his area, he attacked it. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, there's other goals we could talk about. He header against Celtic when Gaza scored the second goal and start 9 in a row. A goal that I also remember, funny enough, was it Pittodrie? We hadn't won there for years. And
he scored the header from. Was it as soon as Roberts crossed it, a big long cross?
Yeah.
And then he gets sent off in the second half.
He gets sent off. That's right. And there was 92-93, which I think was the Goff and Brown, as well as a lot of other players. The
best season.
Peak of that Rangers team. I think a lot of folk maybe forget. A couple of years after that, I think Goff was starting to get a little bit of criticism at and amongst the crowd, he was starting to lose his pace a little bit.
93, 94.
Dougie Arnott at Motherwell was starting to get some joy against him, and Walter moved to a 3 at the back from a 2.
Yeah.
And for me, that extended Goff's career by another couple of years.
Yeah, like Sir Petric and things like that that came in.
McLaren and Scotland. It ended up it was a back 3 all the time, and Goff played the middle one. He just, see what you talked about, he just attacked the ball all the time.
Yeah, because the game I remember about the 3 in the back was they started it in 1994 against AEK Athens away.
Yeah,
Goff, but
Gary Stevens was one of them.
Gary Stevens and Stephen Presley were the 2, and we get absolutely torn apart.
I wonder why.
So I think he knew what he wanted to do. He just didn't have the players at that time. So obviously later that year, Alan McLaren came in, and then Petric just followed.
Yeah, but and Goff was the man that invented the team that drinks together wins together, wasn't
he? Yep. So I can't blame him for that.
So yeah, and there's one for me. There's one iconic Richard Goff image. You know, if you think about if you're old enough to remember the 1990s and you're old enough to remember 9 in a row, there's one image that just sums up him and sums up 9 in a row, and for me, this is it. Unfortunately, I didn't get a ticket that night, but I remember watching it at the telly later, and that picture of Richard Goff, tears in his eyes, lifting that trophy for the 9th year in a row, showed you how much it meant to him, and it summed up how much it meant to all of us, really, didn't it?
Yeah, aye. Again, I didn't get a ticket that night. I was actually working that night and I had to listen to it in the car radio. It was that bad, but and obviously after the Motherwell game, then the previous Easter Monday, I think it was, it was beginning to get a bit worrying because it was 2 away games at Tannadice and Tynecastle. So, but it was a fantastic evening, and watching it at the telly and watching all the celebrations afterwards was just a culmination of many years of just wishing it would happen, and it did.
Yeah, and I think it's probably fair to say that one of the rocks in which 9 in a row was built was the him and Andy Gorham double act at Parkhead, time after time after time.
Had some tremendous performances at Parkhead, but like, I remember the Scottish Cup game in '98, which maybe obviously was the season we actually did all.
That's after he came back. Yeah.
When McCoy scored the winner, and him and Goff at their hands, each other.
That great goal as well. Yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of people were saying, I wonder what Goff says. Richard's a member of my Facebook group, and I asked him the question. And he goes, I just said what we always used to say: you score at one end, and I'll keep them out at the other. So that's what he was saying to Ali McCoist at that time.
Yeah.
So
fantastic. So, as I said probably at the start of this, there's a lot of players that call legends at Rangers, quite rightly, because we have a lot of legendary players. But for me, there's a kind of top table. There's a lot of legends, but there's these kind of icons at the top table, and the 9 in a row captain has to sit
right up there. Yeah. Yep. And so, again, he's in the greatest ever team. I know that it was voted for just after he'd left the club, but even now, I'm sure he would be in that side.
Oh, I think he'd be getting it now as well. I used to do a program in this podcast called First and Favourites, and one of the questions in it was, who's your favourite Rangers captain? And anyone who's too young to have seen John Gregg, all of them say Richard Goff. All of them, without exception. Well, for all that Barry Ferguson, captain, was a great captain, everyone says Richard Goff.
As you say, if you're a captain who led your club to 9 in a row, says all. Absolutely.
So that was August the 3rd, and that completes our 5-day week this week. We're on a shorter week this week, Stephen. Do you enjoy that?
Great. Yes. Hopefully the viewers will enjoy it, and if they've got any questions or about anything we've talked about or that, then please feel free to leave a comment below, and we'll get back to you.
We certainly will. So as I say, next week we'll move to Tuesday, then we'll go back to 7 days again. But before we go, I need to thank our sponsors: CBD Oil Scotland, Candid, LBJ Consultants, Elite Scooters, Metaclad, Aesthetics by Sharon, and Denhay. So we've got lots of sponsors this season. Stephen, without further ado, it's time to say goodbye. So thanks very much. I really appreciate you coming on to these shows. I'll look forward to them every week. And until next week, from Stephen and from myself, bye for now.
Cheers. See you soon, peeps.
The Four Lads Rangers podcast is proudly sponsored by Candid, LBJ Consultants, CBD Oil Scotland, Elite Scooters Scotland, and Metaclad, Four Lads exclusive roofing partner. The Aesthetics Lounge by Sharon, Denhay, the quintessential British bacon. Thank you to all our sponsors, and in partnership with Black Rooster, Art of Gold, and Rangers Youth Development Company. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.